Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we are going to be having a very good look in fact, at Virkayu jungle. Now really I was thinking, how do I basically get a Virkayu video out while being instructional about jungle? And then I noticed a comment a few weeks ago by Rec Racing basically saying, I like the fact that you have these knowledge check questions, what if you did a whole video like that? Therefore, we are going to look at how you can be the perfect jungler by making the right decisions at every point in the game and basically let you carry the map, have the highest kill participation, and enable your laners to be the best version of themselves, because the worst version of themselves is an 0-20 bottom lane. And if you make the wrong decisions, even though it's not your fault a lane ends, you might put them in a situation that they cannot survive or don't know how to deal with it when they are in a lower or mid-tier elo. So we will go through this whole gameplay as we usually do, except I will pause to ask questions about your decision making. Let me know how many you get correct in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you do enjoy this new style of video. And now without hesitation, let us begin. Now the very first thing is of course don't be AFK, but because our challenger pro player on Fleek is, as such, this is a rare mistake as Hecarim places his ward, goes back to base, and primes himself for that blue buff bottom lane leash. If you are in the loading screen, you have to know where I want to begin and what clear I want to do. We covered this particular decision making in the ultimate early game jungle video. For Virkayu, he's a red side starter and he likes to do a 5 camp. Hecarim on the other hand can do a 4 camp, 5 camp, or 4 clear. You don't exactly know what he's going to do, so you basically need to adjust your strategies based upon where he starts. Virkayu gets to the red buff, he gets his leash, bottom lane doesn't show, which means Hecarim also had a leash. Therefore, you are sequencing in the same direction to the top side of the map. This will affect your decision making over the course of the entire early game. In Virkayu's case, he actually kind of wants to get in the grill in the face of the enemy jungler. He wants to make sure they are shoved out of positions of priority, and so that you can actually snowball the game. He's one of the best in the game at doing this. Now, if Hecarim had started on the top side, in the red buff and sequenced down to the bottom lane, and you made your bottom lane leash, and maybe they were directly countered, in this case that's not the situation, although Galio is kinda decent into Bard, your bottom lane would be looking at an early gank and dive, which means you could look to reverse clear, or simply gank on the top or the mid lane and then counter jungle. However, as our Virkayu finishes the blue buff, do you think he should go for this crab? The answer is yes, because you have a ranged Twisted Fate against a melee Silas, and he's gonna have mid lane prio. The fact that Gragas is shoving in your Aatrox isn't too much of an issue. This is why Virkayu pushes that crab down to the mid side. If he needs help, he has it. It's also worth noting that the Hecarim hasn't yet shown up on the crab, which means he's 100% done a full clear, because the horse clears faster than the sword. And that's also exactly why you don't do your Grump, because if he stays to do a 6th camp and he goes to the topside river, that crab is gone. He would lose prior over making any sort of action, he'd have to reset, and it ruins his entire game. Therefore, as he finishes the crab, what do you think is the next play? Should Virkayu fight Hecarim? Should Virkayu invade to see if the Raptors were taken? Should he do the Grump and reset? Or should he try and double scuttle? Well, I hope you said double scuttle, because it's pretty simple. Once you see the Hecarim in your field of view and you know you have no top prio, firstly, you don't want to fight him. Secondly, you can see 24 CS, which means he did an absolute full clear. You look down and you see, hey, wait a second, I have mid prio. That means you can run straight across and take that bottom crab before Hecarim, who now has to reset, is able to contest it. If you need to make prio by pushing the lane, you can do that as well. Once you've secured it, what do you think should be done next? Should you go ahead and invade? Do you gank bottom lane? Do you reset? Now in this case, we want to invade. We hit the plant to gain vision to see if the Hecarim's in the area. And if you are asking, should you fight this or not? The answer is very much no. Yes, your bottom lane is shoving up, which is why you couldn't exactly gank them very easily, but that also means the enemy bottom lane will be able to rotate faster to this particular space. Right, now that you've safely escaped, you've double scuttled, you've done a 5 camp, do you think you should carry on farming, or should we go back to base? The answer very simply is no, we don't want to go back to base. We know the Hecarim has already reset. We know the Hecarim is going to be taking his Grump and then trying to take his Wolves. We also know that our tier 2 Krugs and tier 2 Raptors, the second spawn, have arrived. That means what you want to do before you go back to base here is take your Krugs and take your Raptors, get them off the map, because you might expect the Hecarim to counter jungle while he thinks you've gone back to base. That's the question. What does the enemy jungler want to do? Well, he wants to take my Raptors, and I really don't want to give them up. All of a sudden, you see the Hecarim, you run into him. Is this a good invade by the Hecarim? Yes or no? Yeah, it really isn't, because if you were paying attention to mid lane, you'd notice that the Twisted Fate went back, you'd notice that the Sylas is trying to push so he can reset, and you also have to understand that bottom lane has Prio, and this is where Virkayu specifically shines. You kill the Hecarim, you become the Hecarim, and because the Hecarim forced his Sylas to rotate to a bad situation, you chase him down with a gallop of 1,000 horses, you take him out, you become the Sylas. And I'm not going to pause here because you see him use the Sylas E to get over the wall to counter jungle the Raptors. The Virkayu knows that the Hecarim did a first floor clear. They're both dead, you have Prio, why not steal away his second spawn Raptors? And basically the question here is, do we want to take the baby and clear the camp out, or do we want to leave one behind? We want to leave one behind because if you take the whole camp, yes, you ruin his sequencing, but the next time the Raptors spawn, that means he's gonna have a nice level 6 or so camp. So by giving him the baby to clear, it delays the spawn of that higher XP camp and basically stalls out his experience gains for a little bit longer, which gives you power over the map in the meantime, and basically stunts his ability to get level 6. In the meantime, our Virkayu uses that great angle to try and get a gank on the top lane. The Gragas is pushing, the Gragas is forced to dive. Aatrox gets that kill, you sort of have the magical assist that doesn't give you any money, and so surely now we go back to base, right? No, we don't. This is a very long extended sequence. You will not have a lot of these, but if you read the map perfectly and your jungle is very strong in a 1v1 sense, then you don't necessarily have to. It's about being a perfect jungle and reading the map. Sure, you're missing out on an item spike, but if you can get to places first and then disengage, you won't have an issue. For example, if you were paying attention, you would have noticed that the Hecarim held mid lane and then went to his wolves. That means 100% you know he's gonna go from wolves to raptors to krugs. So what we can do is our Gromp and our wolves, and instead of going back to base at this moment, we can sneak away that Krabby before the Hecarim's able to get there. It's a simple loop path, but it's an honest one, and gave Virkayu level 6. Now we go back to base and you have to ask the question, do I head to the top side or do I head to the bottom side? Yeah, that wasn't a difficult question. Your Rebirths are spawning, your tier 3 raptors and krugs are up, and the fact of the matter is you have to look at the map when you make these decisions. Where is the Hecarim going to be? And that's the most important thing. You just saw him topside, you just saw him clearing upwards, his blue buff is gonna be up, his Grump is gonna be up, you know he's on the bottom side. If you are juiced, if you are fed, if you are looking to snowball and be the perfect jungler, fully sequencing your camps here isn't exactly the play. So what do? Gank mid, gank bot, or invade? Well, pretty obviously, I think in this case we can invade. We know we have the level advantage. We know mid lane is currently being ganked by the Supreme Aatrox top lane. You also know you have bottom lane Prio. If it's warded and it's stifled and you can't exactly follow through, don't overcommit, don't over jungle, fall back and take the dragon. If you're not going to kill the enemy jungler and you're not going to gank, us junglers love a good old-fashioned, medium rare flying lizard who breathes fire. Well, not that one just flies. But the reason he knew to go for that was because mid lane was under pressure, had either died or been forced to back, and you can play your chess pieces accordingly. I was going to say, what would you do after the dragon, but basically I'm going to point it out. If you see someone overcommitting and overreaching with their proximity to you and your laner, please react and go kill the Sylas. It's absolutely free. You have such a huge lead. Too many times junglers will go back into the jungle here and farm instead of using that snowball advantage to actually snowball lanes. And then after that you can go farm and do your raptors. However, where do you go next? Down to the krugs or up to your wolves? The answer is to go upside, because we could do our krugs and then lane gank bottom lane, but the objective on the map and the lane under the most push pressure is topside, and that objective is a herald. However, why did our Virkayu skip the Grump? Is it because he wants to gank directly top lane? Does he want to go counter jungling himself? Does he want to start the herald? Or none of the above? Yeah, the answer is none of the above, because the Sylas decided to move into the topside river from mid lane. So what you want to do is preempt the rotation by moving in, start the fight, the Twisted Fate can join, kill him, move to the top lane with the rest of your team. If you have a roaming support, that's great. If you don't, like most of you won't, you can still take the fight, make sure you finish off the Gragas, and now we can do the herald. At this point, the Hecarim is just behind in cadence. The Virkayu is making the decision to skip the krugs, skip the Grump, and basically by doing that, he's getting to places faster, and because he's a fed Virkayu, nothing can really fight him in these small skirmishes. Once you finish the herald, we finish our Grump because we don't want to come back to this side. We want to go straight from the base again, head directly to the bottom side. Why do you think we want to head in this direction? To take our camps and then sequence upwards? To perhaps invade the enemy hacker room? Or simply to farm the camps that are up and be present for a counter gank? The answer is actually B and C, because yes, we want to take our raptor camp. No, we don't want to sit in this bush where it's warded. Please, if you're going to sit in a bush, always scan it, always step down a ward. He does so, but he wasted time and they saw him. If you are ever going to stand anywhere on the map, make sure the enemy cannot see you, especially when it's a Silas who can take the Twisted Fate ult and they have a Galio. And you will notice that after taking his raptor camp, he doesn't waste time with the Krugs, he doesn't waste time trying to be passive and wait for counter ganks. He's walking into the enemy jungle, he knows he has prior on the bot side, he knows he's really fed. If anyone face checks, they die. And this is where the unique aspect of Virkayu comes in, because you can simply put your E down and start running around walls to see what's going on. After nothing shows up, he goes to the mid lane. Do you think he should use a Herald at this moment? Yes or no? Hopefully you said no, because we can easily take these last two plates ourselves. We are Virkayu, and you will notice the enemy team is diving the bottom lane. You start to dive the enemy Silas. Everyone's gonna collapse on you, and now you can simply watch the abilities of Virkayu. Look how he uses his flash, look how he uses the E, the W, the ult, the passive to reposition. He has the untarget ability as well. That's why every decision up to this point has been spot on. He is one of the best snowballing junglers in the game, and when you're ahead with this kind of lead, look at the damage you can inflict. And if you were thinking, great, now we can use a Herald in the mid lane, no, we had lots of time left on the Herald and for the platings to be up, which means we can take his camps and then use it on the bottom tower to enrich ourselves even further. Now you've done the good work, Odin is proud of you, you should go back to base and spend all your gold, right? No, there's a dragon. We don't need to spend our gold. We're so far ahead. Yes, normally you would want to spend your gold, get your team and go to the dragon. But if you do that, the enemy team will respawn together, rotate together, and basically snipe an objective from you. You can finish it off and get out without having to fight. And now things are quite simple for you. How do we close this game out after going back to base? Do we head to the top side or do we head to the bottom side? That's right, we head to the bottom side so we can take our red sequence up, dive the top laner, because that's what we need to do in order to set ourselves up for the next objective, Lord Herald version 2.0. Once you've secured that, yes, you want to do as follows. There's no camps left. Hopefully you are thinking, red, let's invade, let's look for a fight, let's take our mathematical and statistical advantage and obliterate the enemy. In a high elo game like this, people are going to be safer. You're going to see a team fight the way you're seeing. You should be able to win outright, but as you can see, the Galio coming through, the Silas, the Jinx, that is not something to be messed with. As long as you win the fight, that's great. In your mid to lower elo games, you might be looking more at a pick, which then leads to more picks and a Herald push into the Nexus, and basically you can win a game by 20 minutes very easily with this champion, with this playstyle, and with you thinking actively about how to get into lanes and how to use your farm in basically the process of cutting off enemies, being a step ahead of the enemy jungler, and making sure the objective control is yours to behold. And now we've entered a phase of the game where we're not really talking about jungling, we're talking about macro and team fighting. Yes, in this case, you want to use your lead to win a fight, to take the Baron. Yes, you want to use your lead to get the Dragon Soul win con. You're simply farming on your way to those objectives, and in this case, they surrender. And as you can see, Virkayu is a perfect jungler with perfect hair and a perfect sword. And if you made all these decisions correctly, let me know in the comments how many you got right. You should be well on your way to climbing very easily. Don't let the troll games throw you off. Be consistent with your big brain moves. Don't let the tilt get to you. Swing your big sword all over the map, and you will have no trouble carrying, winning, and climbing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this kind of stop-start format. Let me know if I should make more or not. We won't do it very often, just every now and then when there's a distinct shift in the meta or a new champion, you can sort of implement that into your decision-making strategies. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial. Buff Volley Bear Jungle.